Hello students, welcome to my lecture series on reinforced concrete structures. In this class, I am going to discuss about analysis of doubly reinforced beams. The outcomes of today's lectures are like this. After completion of this class, you will be able to know what is the definition of doubly reinforced beams and when the doubly reinforcement should be provided and in which situation we'll use a doubly reinforcement, how to calculate total compressive and tensile forces acting on the section, that is doubly reinforced section, and as usual how to calculate the depth of neutral axis, and finally how to calculate the moment of resistance. As all of you know that analysis of any beam means it is a calculation of moment of resistance by using various parameters like compressive forces, tensile forces and depth of neutral axis. And finally, by calculating lever arm, we can calculate what is the moment of resistance with respect to tension zone or with respect to the compression zone. Right. So let us recall what are the things we had discussed in previously regarding a singly reinforced section. We had discussed about analysis of singly reinforced beams and design of singly reinforced beams. Right. Before that, let me brief what do you mean by singly reinforced beam. A singly reinforced beam means a reinforcement is provided in only tension zone of a member. That is called a singly reinforced beam. As we know, why we are providing a reinforcement only in tension zone? Because our concrete is very strong in compression but very weak in tension. So to take the tensile load, which are tensile stresses which are occurs in the beam section due to applied load, that will be taken care by reinforcement. Generally we provide reinforcement as a steel bars. But in the case of this is in the case of simply supported beam and cantilever beams. A simply supported beam, generally the tension zone occurs below the neutral axis, and for the cantilever beam the tension zone occurs above the neutral axis. So in cantilever beam we will provide the steel reinforcement above the neutral axis. Right. So what do you mean by analysis of singly reinforced beams? Here in this analysis, ultimately we have to calculate what is the moment resisting capacity of a particular beam, whether it is a simply supported beam or a cantilever beam. For that we have to calculate what is the moment resisting capacity. How to calculate this moment resisting capacity? First of all, we have to evaluate or we have to find out what are the total compressive force are acting in compression zone and what are the total tensile force are acting in the tension zone. Then we have to make that beam in equilibrium, so that we have to equate total compressive force equal to total tensile force. From that we can calculate what is the depth of neutral axis is. You know the depth of neutral axis is, it is a depth distance between top fiber of cross section to the up to depth neutral axis, that is the depth of neutral axis, right? By knowing this, and we have to calculate what is the moment of resistance is. The moment of resisting is resistance to the moment, that is a couple formed because of that compressive and tensile forces. Because of that internal moment will be generated, that is what a moment which is generated, that is resisting capacity of a beam due to applied load. Then we have go for a design of singly reinforced beam, and after knowing that dimensions, the design of singly reinforced beam means we have to design the dimension of the beam and the amount of steel reinforcement provided in the tension zone of the beam. So that is B, D and AST we have to calculate, and we have discussed elaborately how to calculate B, how to calculate D and how to calculate AST, and what are the checks are available for calculating, checks are available for design of singly reinforced beams, right? Say deflection check, minimum tension reinforcement check, maximum tension reinforcement check, check against the development length that simply supports positive bending moments for the simply supported beams, and for calculating the anchorage length for a simply supported beam as well as a cantilever beam. Those things we have discussed very elaborately, right? So with this background knowledge, we will start our today's session on analysis of doubly reinforced beams. It is quite similar to analysis is quite similar to our singly reinforced beams. Only thing is we have to provide the reinforcement extra on the compression zone. So today we will discuss what is that beam, why should we provide that extra reinforcement in the compression zone, and under what situation we will provide, and how to calculate the moment of resistance in a doubly reinforced beam. In those things we will discuss in today's class. Say, let us start. What is a doubly reinforced beam? The doubly means, the name itself stating the double means two, means we are providing the reinforcement in two places. That's what is the doubly reinforced. So in which places we are providing, that is the thing here. Say the actual definition of the doubly reinforced beam is the RCC beam in which the reinforcement is placed in tension as well as in compression zone, right? In a reinforced concrete beam, the reinforcement is provided, that is in the form of steel bars, that is provided in compression zone as well as a tension zone. So this figure will clearly illustrates you what is the definition of a doubly reinforced beam. So this is a beam and this is the neutral axis. If I assume that this is a cross section of a beam, that is the front view of the beam, the cross section, and this will give me the neutral axis. This neutral axis will divide the whole section of a beam into two zones. Suppose if it is a simply supported beam, the zone which is above the neutral axis is called a compression zone, or the zone which is below the neutral axis is called a tension zone. See, in this type of beam, we are providing reinforcement in compression zone and the reinforcement in tension zone. That means we are placing the reinforcement in tension as well as compression. That's why this beam is called a doubly reinforced beam. If you observe the figure, you might have observed the figure or this a picture of with respect to the singly reinforced beam. There we have provided with the same beam this reinforcement in tension zone only. That's why we call it as a singly reinforced beam. Now we are providing reinforcement in both the zones, so I can call it as a doubly reinforced beam. Finally, I will read out once again what is the definition of doubly reinforced beam is: a reinforced concrete beam in which the reinforcement is placed in a tension zone and compression zone. These types of beams are called doubly reinforced beam. Right. I think definition is clear for you, dear students. Okay. And next we'll move to when we provide the doubly reinforced beam. So what is this in when we provide that? So here the question is, this important parameter to evaluate whether you go for the singly reinforced beam or the doubly reinforced beam. So due to the applied load, we can calculate what is the applied bending moment. And by using the dimensions provided and grade of steel and grade of concrete, we can calculate what is the limiting moment of resistance is. If a applied moment mu is greater than the limiting moment of resistance mu limit, then we go for providing the doubly reinforcement in the beam. So what do you mean by this actually? Here, by provided B and D and AST, we can calculate what is that mu limit, that is less than the moment which is coming on the beam due to the externally applied load. So if you keep as it is, your beam will not withstand the applied moment, so it is going to collapse or going to fail. So that's why in order to counteract that applied moment, we have to provide the extra reinforcement in the beam. So what is the ways of increasing limiting moment of resistance in the beam section? So here, according to this formula, that is mu limit, we have to increase. Here we have K into B into D. K is some limiting factor, that is depends upon the grade of concrete, grade of steel. Those things we have already discussed. But here majorly depends on this mu limit is a cross-sectional dimension of a beam. What is B and D? So if you want to increase the limiting moment of resistance, so you have to increase a depth of the beam. So because depth is square times proportional to the limiting moment of resistance. So depth, by increasing depth of the beam, one of the option, and another option is same, you are providing the extra steel in the tension zone again. If you provide the extra steel in tension, what will happen? The section will become over-reinforced section. But as per what is the theory of over-reinforced section? Because in the over-reinforced section, our concrete will reaches its yield. It will reaches first to yield, then before your steel reaches to yield. first. Right. Here concrete, that means concrete will fails first before the steel fails. But in that case, there is no, before failure of a member, there is no sufficient warning of the section. That's why we are not using a member designing based on over reinforced section. So it is not advisable also. It is it is uneconomical and unsafe, I can say. It is uneconomical because we are providing more reinforcement, and it is unsafe because it is not giving sufficient warning before collapse of that. That's why we are not going for the over reinforced section. So compulsory we have to increase the limiting moment of resistance, then only we are providing increasing that limiting moment of resistance is providing reinforcement in compression zone. Right, we have another option also. By increasing the depth of the beam, it is not always possible to increase the depth. We have so many constraints, like we have some architectural constraints, some headroom constraints, like that. Because of that reasons, we cannot increase the depth of the beam, but only provision we have for increasing limiting moment of resistance is providing the reinforcement in compression zone also. So from this I can say, due to the various restrictions, only option is to provide compression reinforcement, which will give the doubly reinforced beam. How it is give doubly reinforced beam? Already we are provided tension reinforcement. In additionally, to increase the limiting moment of resistance of a particular beam, we are providing the reinforcement in compression zone also. So we are provided the reinforcement in both the zones, like a tension as well as compression. So that beam is termed as doubly reinforced beams. I hope you understood. When we go for doubly reinforced beam, just blindly you can say you have to go when your mu is less than mu is greater than mu limit, then we have to increase the depth, or you have to provide the extra reinforcement. That extra reinforcement should be provided in the compression zone. So the beam, now we are provided the reinforcement in compression as well as tension, so the beam will become a doubly reinforced beam. So next one, what are the situations may come across to provide doubly reinforced beams? So these are the following situations. As I already discussed, that when there are depth restrictions, when we get the depth restriction, so if you have to have some architectural constraint, so there some beautification work is coming because of something is coming due to the architectural appearance, there is no provision for increasing the depth of beam. So there we go for ultimately for doubly reinforced beam. And second one is in continuous beams and slabs force system. So if you observe the continuous beams under the slabs, so there maybe two types of beams are occurs. At the middle of the slab we have a T beams. At the edges of the slab we have a rectangular beam, or I can say L beams. So at the L beams there is a chance of movement. There is a maximum movement at the at the supports in continuous beam. So there we have to provide a doubly reinforced beam. And then where it is required to increase the stiffness, you know what is the meaning of stiffness is? Stiffness is, it is a resistance against the deformation. Where there may be a chance of deformation, more deformation occur, there we have to increase the stiffness of the particular member. So we have to provide the reinforcement in compression zone. So then we have to provide, that will become your doubly reinforced beam. And one more thing here is the situation. One more situation is compressive steel increases the ductility, and the structure with ductility responds better to the seismic forces. Generally, this will be provided in your seismic regions, earthquake regions. So if you provide a steel in compressive zone also, as we know that our steel is a ductile material. So because of ductility of that, if any seismic force or earthquake occur, it will give sufficient warning. It will not collapse all of a sudden, but it will give a sufficient warning because of its more ductility nature. So that we can save our life during this earthquake situation. So, and one more situation is when the loads occurs on the either face of the member. The cases may occur when the load on a particular member or a beam occur from from top of the beam and sometimes from the bottom of the beam also. So that means in both the cases the tensile stresses will occur in if due to the applied, if it is a simply supported beam, the beam is subject to a bottom load also. From the bottom of the beam also the load is acting because of vertically upward forces, vertically downward forces. The tension zone will occur in below the neutral axis. Because of vertically upward forces, the tension will occur above the neutral axis. So to counteract these two tensions, there we have to provide a compression, the reinforcement in compression as well as tension zones. So these are the situation where we can use doubly reinforced members. Right. So let us start the actual analysis of a doubly reinforced beam. So you know that this is a cross section of a doubly reinforced beam, right? So this is a compression reinforcement, tension reinforcement. This is the effective depth, and this is the cover in compression. This is a cover in tension, right? A doubly reinforced beam has a moment of resistance greater than the balanced section. As we discussed that when we go for doubly reinforced section, if the ultimate moment or the moment which is applied over the beam is more than limiting moment of resistance, then we go for the doubly reinforcement. But the moment carrying capacity of a doubly reinforced section is more than that of balanced section. You know what the balanced section is? That is where our applied moment is equals to the limiting moment of resistance. So that is called, we can call it as a balanced section, or your depth of neutral axis. Another way of defining the balanced section is actual depth of neutral axis equal to the maximum depth of neutral axis, right? So this doubly reinforced moment, the moment carrying capacity of doubly reinforced beam can be analyzed by considering two sections. Say this is a doubly reinforced beam section. This beam can be split into two sections. So it is not possible, this beam can be split in practical way, just analysis purpose I am splitting this. So this beam will be split into two sections. Section 1 is considered as a singly reinforced balanced section. Why I am saying this depth of neutral axis what you obtained, there is a maximum depth of neutral axis, and we are providing reinforcement in compression zone. Because of provision of reinforcement in tension zone, that is called become a singly reinforced, and the moment of resistance we are calculating with respect to the limiting depth of neutral axis for this particular section. So we can call it as a limiting moment of resistance. So this will become then a balanced section, right? And this balanced section plus some imaginary section I can consider here. That's why I can show it as a dotted line, right? Here I will provide some additional reinforcement in tension zone, and already I will provide a compression reinforcement also. So that is here some indications are there. ASC, it is area of steel in compression. AST2 is area of steel in tension. Here we have a AST1 also with respect to the balanced section, that is area of steel in tension. And here D dash is effective depth of a beam in compression zone, and this is small d is overall depth, and the depth between this centroid of your tension reinforcement to the bottom of the beam is called a effective depth in tension zone. So finally this cross section of a doubly reinforced beam equivalent to the cross sections of these two beams, that is section 1 plus section 2. So and the moment of a doubly reinforced beam is, that is the ultimate moment of doubly reinforced beam is say mu, and the moment with respect to this balanced section is generally we are calculating with respect to a limiting depth of neutral axis. So it is a limiting moment, and the moment with respect to this section is, so I can call it the second section number 2, so mu2. So let us analyze each section one by one now. So let us consider the first section. It consists of a singly reinforced balanced section having area of steel AST1 and moment of resistance is mu limit, as it is a balanced section. So the limit obtained, the bending moment of resistance are obtained by this balanced section is mu limit. And similarly, consider the second section. In the second section, it is an imaginary section, and this is AST2. 2 bars of reinforcement are provided in the tension zone. It is in the form of a additional steel, and here we have a 3 bars in the compression zone, that is ASC, and that the overall depth of the beam is, say, capital D here. It consists of a compression steel, that is ASC, and additional steel having area AST2 corresponding to the ASC, that is, this is corresponding to the ASC, and the moment of resistance of this section is, as it is the second section, I am considering it as a mu2. Right. The question is, why should we provide this additional steel in this second section? Remember the student that it is not happening practically. It is, I am assuming, a imaginary beam as a purpose of analysis of a doubly reinforced beam. Right. So as we know from this, that is mu, the total moment resisting or total moment resisting capacity of a doubly reinforced beam is equal to moment resisting capacity of this section and the moment resisting capacity of this section. So that is mu, that is the ultimate moment in doubly reinforced beam, is equal to moment in balanced section plus moment in section 2, that is additional steel reinforcement section. Right. So we can calculate, we know already this value mu, what is mu is, and we know this value, this we can calculate by using the formula called mu limit equal to k into some BD square. K value depends upon what type of grade of steel we are using here, and B and D is already given to you dimension, from that you can calculate. So by knowing the value of this mu and mu limit, we can calculate what is the moment in the section 2 is. So that is mu equal to mu limit plus mu2. From that, mu2 is equal to mu minus mu limit. This is how we calculate mu2. Why should we calculate mu2? Say, for example, your beam has to resist a 400 kilonewton into meter moment. This W, if this beam set to, you are providing a doubly reinforced beam, this beam has to resist a moment of 400 kilonewton into meter. And after that, if I provide a balanced section, this balanced section will bear the moment up to 350 kilonewton into meter. So what is the difference of moment between these two? There is a 50 kilonewton into meter. Then who will bear that 50 kilonewton into meter moment? For that, we will provide a additional reinforcement here, AST2, and the reinforcement in the compression zone. So this additional moment will produced in this section 2 will bear, that is remaining 50 kilonewton into meter. So that will bear by this section. That's why we have to calculate the moment carrying capacity of section 2. So this that 50 kilonewton into meter is bared by this one. Then who will counteract that moment? Here we have only compressive moment. Similarly, we have to have tensile moment also to keep that beam in equilibrium. That's why we are providing the additional reinforcement here in the form of these 2 bars, that is AST2. So this is how we calculate the limiting moment and the moment in section 2 and ultimate moment in the doubly reinforced beam. Right. So this is the stress distribution and strain distribution diagram of your doubly reinforced beam. It is similar to your singly reinforced beam. As we discussed, as for your assumption number 1, that is plane section remains plane even after loading. Before loading also it is plane, after loading or after bending also it is plane. So then the strain will varies linearly. This will indicate that variation of strain linear from compression zone to tension zone. And another assumption we have seen that the maximum compressive strain in the concrete in flexure condition we can consider as a 0.0035, and the strain in steel, that is tension zone, should not be less than this value, that is 0.87 Fy by Es plus 0.002. So this thing we have discussed in your assumptions what you made for limit state of collapse and flexure condition. So this doubly reinforced beam also a flexure member. So based on those assumptions only we have to analyze and we have to design the doubly reinforced beam also. And also discuss that the compressive stress corresponding to the maximum strain, that is 0.0035 is 0.0046 FCK, and we know the shape of this stress block. It is a parabolic up to a strain of 0.002, and then it is rectangle from strain of 0.002 to a maximum strain value of 0.0035. So we have calculated what the stress block parameters here, that is T, and the total compressive force which is acting C here. But here we got the forces in the stress block are C1 and C2. What is the C1? The C1 is force carried by concrete. What is the C2? It is a force carried by steel, because the C2 is a force due to steel, the compressive force in steel reinforcement. What is the C1? It is a compressive force in the concrete other than the steel. So those things, C1 we have to calculate, C2 we have to calculate, and finally we have to calculate tensile force by equating this to the parameter of stress block, and we can calculate what is the depth of neutral axis is. Same, quite similar to your singly reinforced beam. So let me explain the terms what we have here. Here B is, which is the B, width of the beam, and small d is effective depth of the beam, and this XE is depth of neutral axis, and FSC is stress in compression steel. FSC we have to calculate, that is stress in compressive steel, and ASC is area of compressive steel. Here see, ASC is area of compression steel, and the stress induced in this steel is called a compressive stress in steel, that is we indicated with a FSC, and D dash is effective cover in compression. So as we know that the C1 with respect to the concrete is the resultant force in concrete, we know what is the depth centroid of that C1 force from topmost fiber, that is 0.42 XU, and that the lever arm between lever arm is nothing but it is a distance between the line of action of total compressive force to the line of action of total tensile force, that will Z equal to D minus 0.42 XU. This thing we have discussed in your singly reinforced beams also. Right. So now we'll just calculate the depth of neutral axis. For calculating depth of neutral axis, we should know what is the total compressive force and what is the total tensile force. Finally, if we equate these two forces, then we will get what is the XVs. So let me calculate total compressive force here, or I can say analysis of compressive forces. That is C equal to C1 plus C2. You know that C1 equal to force carried by concrete area, and C2 is equal to force carried by area of compression steel. So this thing, the force carried by concrete, already we have discussed in your previous sessions, that is 0.36 FCK into B XU, that is area multiplied by stress, that will give the force, that is C1, and here minus FCC and FASC. What is this? It is a stress in concrete under the steel and the area of steel. What do you mean by this? If you come here, this is a force. The stress multiplied by area will give me the force. That is force due to loss of concrete area occupied by compression steel. So this will give me the 0.36 FCK into BXU will give me the total compressive force which is acting in compression zone. But in this compression zone, we have a tensile, this is steel also. But this steel will occupy some area. In that particular area, occupied area of steel, there is no concrete. So we have to deduct the force due to this steel occupied concrete, the place where the steel occupied the area. Those areas we have to deduct from the total compressive force. That's why here the question is, this is 0.36 FCKB into XC is for whole that stress block parameter, that is parabolic and rectangular portions compressive force, minus this will be the loss of force due to loss of concrete occupied by the steel. In place of concrete we have a steel, but there is no concrete, so the amount of force which is considered due to that concrete, that must be deducted. So that will be the stress induced, that that FCC, and ASC is the area of the compression reinforcement. From this we can deduct that the FCC and ASC we can deduct that. So this is C1, and C2 is the force carried by the compression steel. You know, force means stress multiplied by area. Here the FSC is, it is a stress in steel in compression zone. ASC is area of steel in compression. So this area of steel multiplied by stress in steel, that will give me the total force carried by the compression steel. So if we add these two, then we'll get the total compressive force C. So I am explaining again this, you may have confused here. This 0.36 FCK BXC is for the whole block. So this one, for this section, the whole compressive force. But in this portion we have some steel reinforcement also. That means wherever we provide the steel reinforcement, there will not be a concrete. So that of the force due to that concrete should be deducted from the total compressive force. That's why it is the stress due to the concrete in that number of reinforcement bars, and ASC is the area of steel in compression. That will give me the compressive force, that is loss of force due to concrete area occupied by compression steel. So now you might understand. Now we can calculate total compressive force, this plus this, that is 0.36 FCKB into XU minus FCC ASC plus FSC ASC, and here we have to equate the total compressive force equal to total tensile force, and we know the total tensile force is 0.87 Fy AST, and total compressive force is this. If we equate this, we'll get XU is, so XU we can get 0.87 Fy into AST minus FSC minus FCC into ASC whole by 0.36 FCK into B. Here the term FCC is very negligible quantity compared to ASC, so we can neglect that or we can use it. Which formula is you are comfortable with, that those formula can use. You can use this formula or this formula. For simplicity purpose, I am neglecting this, that FCC is a very negligible quantity. So finally the actual depth of neutral axis can be calculated by using this formula, that 0.87 Fy AST minus FSC into ASC by 0.36 FCK into B. So finally the principle is, here we have to equate the total compressive force and total tensile force to form a equilibrium condition there, right? And these are the stress diagrams of different sections. So this is for total stress diagram for your doubly reinforced beam section. This is corresponding to the balanced section, and this is corresponding to the additional section having moment mu2. So from this stress diagram B, I can calculate what is the limiting moment of resistance is. So it is a compression zone. The total compressive, with respect to compression I am calculating. So with respect to compression, the moment of resistance can be calculated compressive force multiplied by lever arm, and that is mu limit. With respect to this balanced section is mu limit is the moment of resistance, that is C1 is the compressive force which is acting here, and multiplied by lever arm, that will give me the moment of resistance. What is the C1 here? C1 already we have calculated, that is 0.36 FCK B into XU minus, and this is corresponding to this, and here we have the steel reinforcement, and that the how much area of steel reinforcement provided, that much area of concrete we are losing, so that we have to deduct from this. So FCC into ASC into this lever arm is D minus 0.42 XU, right? Next we have to calculate a stress in section 2, that is mu2 is that. From that, see, this is a C2 force which is acting due to a tensile compressive reinforcement. The force acting on the due to compressive stress induced in that section is C2, that compressive force is C2, that can be calculated by using FSC into ASC,
and the lever arm will be from here to here, it is d dash, the effective depth, and this compressive force is acting exactly at the center of compressive reinforcement, and this depth will be effective depth minus this compression effective depth, so d minus d dash. So if you want to calculate that C2 must be multiplied with a lever arm. C2 is FSC into ASC multiplied by lever arm is d minus d dash. And finally, we know the total moment of resistance with respect to the concrete or compression. If you want to calculate, then it must be multiplied by C1 into Z1 plus C2 into Z2. That is, mu equal to total moment resisting capacity of a doubly reinforcement is mu limit plus mu2. So we know this term, that mu limit 0.36 FCK B into XU into, and this is sorry, it is not into 0.36 FCK B into XU minus FSC into ASC. Just please deduct this, remove this multiplication symbol, and multiplied by this lever arm d minus 0.42 XU plus C2 into Z2. You know C2 value, that is C2 into Z2, that is mu2. mu2 is FSC into ASC multiplied by lever arm d minus d dash. So this is how we calculate moment of resistance in the doubly reinforced beam with respect to the concrete or compression joint. The question is how to calculate the FSC. So there is no calculation I discussed so far, but that can be calculated. That is calculation of stress in compressive steel that can be calculated from strain diagram. It depends upon the strain in compression, which can be obtained from strain diagram and d dash value. So if you observe this is the strain diagram corresponding to doubly reinforced section. So this is what ESC, it is a strain corresponding to the the compression reinforcement. The strain corresponding to the compression reinforcement, and this is 0.0035 is the maximum strain and is a strain in tension. So by it having this, there are two triangles, this triangle and this will provide another triangle. For both the triangle we have a same side, so I can call it as a similar triangle. By using similar triangle principle, I can calculate what is the compressive strain is. So let us apply the similar triangle principle, that is this by this width by this depth will give me the one condition, and this width by this depth will be total is XU. If you deduct this d dash, will give the XU minus d dash. So 0.0035 by XU, 0.0035 by XU is equal to strain in compression steel, that is ESC by XU minus d dash. So this from here to here the depth, XU minus d dash. If you simplify that, we will be getting the the strain in compressive reinforcement is equal to 0.0035 into 1 minus d dash by XU. So once you know the strain, then from that you can calculate what is the stress. So the FSC value corresponding to the strain ESC can be obtained from the stress strain curve of any steel, that is Fe415 or Fe500. The curve will be given in your IS 456 2000, and correspondingly various values of strains. There are some standard stresses are given, compressive stresses are given in the table. Those tables also available in your code, that is IS 456 2000. Here I am giving one ready-made table that is depend upon the d by d ratio, d dash by d ratio. So it is a d dash by d, just corrected, it is a d dash by d ratio. You know the d dash is the effective cover in the compression and d is the effective depth. And for a given grade of steel and values of the d dash by d ratio, here the values of compressive stress in steel is given. And if sometime you may get exact value of this, or sometime you may not get exact values. If you are not getting intermediate values between 0.05 to 0.1 or 0.1 to 0.15 or 0.15 to 0.2, you can take the intermediate values of d by d dash, sorry d dash, it is a d dash by d. The next higher value may be used for FSC from the above table. Dear students, please correct it. It is not a d by d dash value, it is a d dash by d value. You just follow this table, some topographical mistake here, right? So this is how we calculate FSC. Here we have two ways of calculating. One is by knowing the strain in steel from the corresponding stress strain curve of steel. From that strain value know corresponding stress we can know from that. Otherwise you can calculate the FSC from this particular table. So next, moment of resistance with respect to tension. So far we have calculated moment of resistance with respect to compression. Now we have to calculate moment of resistance with respect to tension. So again consider for balanced section, that is the moment of resistance with respect to tension in section 1 is T1 into Z1. You know T1 is 0.87 Fy into AST1 and D is your lever arm, D minus 0.42 XU. So this multiplied by this the distance will give the moment, that is moment of resistance. And similarly for moment of resistance due to the additional steel reinforcement provided, that is AST2, generally it is AST2, MT2 equal to AST2 into lever arm is D minus D2. And finally MRT equal to moment of resistance with respect to tension equal to, that is MRT1 plus MRT2, that is MRT equal to moment of tension equal to finally 0.87 Fy AST1 into D minus 0.42 XU plus 0.87 Fy AST2 into D minus D dash. This is how we calculate moment of resistance with respect to tension. Right, but this formula will not be allowed in this calculation of moment of resistance for doubly reinforced beam. What is the reason? Right, here we have a AST1, AST2. Will you split, and what proportion you can split your reinforcement which is provided in the tension zone into two different areas? So we cannot, for analysis purpose I have shown in the figure that 3 here and 2 here. But if you have the 7 number of bars, we cannot provide 4 here and 3 here. On what basis you can provide? So we cannot provide like that. That's why we cannot decide that what is the AST1 is and what is the AST2 is. That's why we cannot use this moment of resistance formula for calculating moment resisting capacity of a beam with respect to tension. Right? So these are the steps for calculating moment of resistance. The first step is for given D dash by D ratio, what is FSC? Already I discussed that based on this table, D dash by D ratio given, grade of steel is given, from that you can calculate what is FSC. Otherwise we know another way also, by calculating strain in compression steel and by from the graph which is given in the IS 456-2000, from there you can calculate what is the stresses. Second one, calculate the depth of neutral axis. This can be done by equating the actual depth, that your force and tensile force equal to compressive forces. After equating that, I got XU equal to 0.87 Fy AST minus FSC ASC by 0.36 FCKW. Then we have to calculate a limiting depth of neutral axis. This XU will give me the actual value of neutral axis. Now I have to calculate XU max, that is limiting depth of neutral axis. So this limiting depth of neutral axis is depends upon the grade of steel. For in the IS 456-2000, they have given for different grade of steel what will be the XU max, that is limiting depth of neutral axis or maximum depth of neutral axis. So for consider Fe415, that will be 0.48 D. You know the D is effective depth, that already known to you. So if you substitute that, you will get what is the XU max value is. So after calculating XU and XU max, just compare those, and if XU equal to XU max, the section will be balanced section. If XU equal less than XU max, it is the under reinforced section. If XU is greater than XU max, it is the over reinforced section. Based on the type of section, we have to calculate what is the moment of resistance is. If it is a balanced section, then we go for either of these two formulas. Though I am providing here, but we cannot consider this formula for calculating moment of resistance, because already I have explained you what is the reason for that. The given reinforcement cannot be split into two different areas of a tension steel areas. So that is AST1 and AST2. That's why we can use this moment of resistance, that is with respect to compression only. So if that is mu, we can calculate with respect to this. If you get the under reinforced section, then it will be 0.36 FCK BU into D into 1 minus D minus 4.6 XU plus FSC minus FCC into ASC into D minus D dash. And if you get your actual depth of neutral axis is more than limiting depth of neutral axis, then it is considered as over reinforced section. But the over reinforced section will not be considered as for IS 456-2000 as a limit state method. We will not consider that over reinforced section, but we are that if you get this situation also, we will design up to the XU max value only. That is what we are designing for balancer section only. That is ME equal to 0.36 FC. In place of XU, we will substitute what is the XU max is. By using this formula, we can calculate what is the moment of resistance is. So this is all for today's lecture. Thank you.